Hi there, welcome to part 2 of me fixing up my Finnish antique spinning wheel in order to get her spinning. So this part 2 is going to focus on the tweaks that I made trying to get her in better spinning shape and so that she wouldn't break or have future problems. I just kind of I base these tweaks on some advice I got from some of my spinning guild friends who have a lot more knowledge and experience with antiques than I do. I won't claim that these are the right or best ways to fix these, and as you'll see, some things didn't quite turn out the way I thought. But I'm just going to show you what I tried. It's going to be a little bit of a longer video. So, let's segue. Some sort of magical, amazing segue to let's go get started. I am lucky enough to have in my spinning guild a wonderful lady who knows so much about antique wheels. And last week was our spinning guild meeting. So I took it and she kind of checked it out and she gave me some tips on some things that I need to fix to keep this lady spinning in her best of shape. So I'll bring you in for a close up and we can talk about things we need to problem solve. One of the first things that our antique spinning wheel guru noticed for me that I hadn't realized was on the flyer. You see right here, it's kind of got a bit of a crack. So we're going to need to kind of reinforce that to make sure that it doesn't go flying off while we're spinning. And as far as I know, well, the ultimate fix, I suppose, would be to make a whole new flyer. But that would be a shame because it's got all this air over time. The fiber has, worn grooves into the flyer, so it would be a shame to lose all that history of the wheel. The two kind of repairs that are often seen in antique wheels for this kind of crack where something needs reinforcement is either to wrap it with a strong thread like linen or to use a piece of metal to make kind of like a brace. And this wheel does already have here on the let's see if we can tip it up and show you. Get it to focus. So there on the part of the treadle piece, you can see if we can get it to focus. You can kind of see where that's cracked there, and that someone at some point had made this metal brace. This is an important thing I need to address so that not only we don't risk breaking our flyer in the middle of spinning, we also wouldn't, I don't know, this would be kind of a wicked thing to go flying through the air and, having a wooden piece with metal being a projectile through the air. Not a good thing. And there's two other things that she pointed out that we need to address. Here, this leather bearing, it is too loose. So you want to be able to cinch it up tight so that there's no wiggle. See how that wiggles. But this, I don't know if this is original or at what point it was replaced. It may have been replaced by my uncle who didn't really know exactly how it was supposed to fit. So I need to source some leather probably to just make a replacement. I think that's going to be the easiest thing. And the next thing is kind of related. Here there's this big gap between the bearing and the whorl, which lets the flyer slide and potentially fall out completely. Which would not be good and probably break the flyer. She recommended I need to make some kind of spacer to fill that gap. Because if you look kind of down the wheel, when it's all the way over here with the orifice firmly against that bearing bushing, then the whorl lines up really nicely with the wheel. And if it scoots that way, not only does the orifice want to fall out, it also misaligns with the wheel. Oh, and the other thing is this is too wiggly. So I need to fix that so it doesn't wiggle, because we want it to wiggle enough to be able to turn it to remove the flyer, but not have it constantly wiggling. So I need to do something about that. And then I need to figure out a spacer, which she did suggest when if I make a new bearing here, I could cut it wider here, that might help hold it in place. Although I don't know if it was, I mean, if I cut it all the way like a square all the way out there, I don't know if that would, I think it's going to need some kind of spacer here and then maybe a wider piece here. I think what's going to work best is to do a combination of adding some kind of spacer here and also making this part maybe a little bit wider. So I suppose the first thing, I'm going to have to figure out where I can source some thick leather for that. I know a lot of times they recommend like old belts. Sadly, I have no old belt around. I do have some leather scraps somewhere. I'll have to go hunt them down and see if I don't think any of them are thick enough, but I'll go take a look. Otherwise, I might be taking a trip to the local Goodwill. Sadly, that's the only real thrift store in my area. I may have to go see if I can find an old belt that I could cut up to replace that. And then I got to figure out what in the world, I don't know what kind of material is going to be best to try and make a spacer out of, whether that's leather or wood. So we're going to read my husband's stash of isopropyl alcohol that he has for his resin printer. I think it's that thing in the red. I don't know. I've used his 3D printer before. I never used his resin printer. Anyways, back on task. Isopropyl alcohol. Let's see if we can clean off the wax that I put onto the maiden. Make it less wiggly. Carefully take the flyer off so we don't cause it any more damage. And let's see, paper towels and the alcohol. First, I'm going to open the spray bottle so that it will spray. I'm just going to spray that on. Try rubbing it off. And we'll do this a few times and see. We'll do this a few times and see if that kind of cleans the wax off there that I put on there. Well, it's certainly cleaning something off. I'm surprised it's so red. Did I? Oh, that's probably some of the stain on there. Whoops. Or oh no. Oh, yeah, look at that reddish color. Okay, let's do one more spray. Okay, now let's come back and see if this will fit. Or, fit. We know it fits. Let's see. Focus. Let's see if this will be less wiggly. Okay. Yeah, and you know what? I'm realizing this is my fault because it wasn't fitting in at all and it was super stuck and I sanded it down. I sanded it too much. I'm sorry, wheel. I'm sorry I did you dirty. Yeah. Okay. So I think next step is going to be finding something to very slightly shim it with. Okay, so obviously this is not the aesthetic choice, but I think something about this thickness would work because I can still turn it, but it's not wiggly. So, I mean, I suppose I could just rip it off and, oh, that looks so beautiful, doesn't it? Let me see if I can figure out something maybe a little more aesthetically pleasing that would give us the same effect. I'm thinking we'll grab a scrap piece of fabric. Now the question is, you go for something that might sort of blend in, or lean into a, hey, I'm out of place here, but I'm pretty. Or maybe a scrap of linen, since I'm sure lots of linen was spun on her back in the day. I don't know. Maybe we'll just take a few options so we can see what we like best. Yeah, we'll do that. Who knows? Somewhere on one of these bins, I swear, is where I have my scrap leather pieces. So I suppose since I'm up here, I may as well search for that. Haha! Success! Here are my leather scraps. We'll see if there's any. Yeah, I really don't think any of it's that thick, but let's go take it down and see. And yeah, I don't think any of this is going to be useful. No, that's just felt. Okay, let's go downstairs and see what. Let's go downstairs and see what we can do. Let's see something. Let's see what I'm doing. I don't know. Plan. Let's use this as a rough. Can I talk? Maybe, some days, sort of, kind of. Here's my plan. We're going to use this as a pattern piece to cut a fabric shim for my for my spinning wheel maiden. I don't know. Let's see. Are we gonna get that to go in? Maybe this is a terrible plan. Oh yeah, see that? Okay. Well, let's cut some fabric. Okay, actually kidding. Let's go get real fabric scissors instead of trying to just use the craft scissors. Obviously, this is not working, so. Let's see if this even sort of kind of works. Okay, nope. Nope. Oh, I see. Interesting. It's all super red inside of here. Okay, what happens if we cut a little notch in there? And also maybe this is just thicker than the. I mean, it doesn't seem thicker than the paper towel, but I don't know, maybe it has a different density, so it doesn't want to squish down as much. Possibly. Okay, but I think that's still kind of, well, yeah, too thick. Now that's wedged in too well. Oh no! That was not what see, now it's wedged in there tight. Oh, don't break. Okay, time to get the hammer. Okay, so that fabric is definitely too thick. That's not gonna work. This is a gauzy cotton that I think is gonna be thinner. Might work better than this quilting cotton. Too much bunching up in there. It's going to get it too thick. Oh, look, I think this has worked. Now the only question is if I can get it to work without it peaking up, because it's slightly unsightly. Okay, you go in. Okay, now are you too tight? Woo! Okay, problem one. Problem one. Problem one. Woo, I can talk. Problem one solved. Woo! Turnable, but doesn't wiggle. Alrighty, here is our bag of leather scraps. So let's see if we can find anything that might be as thick as our little leather bearing holder. I really need to look up the names of all the antique spinning wheel parts again. That would be a smart thing to do before I film. Wouldn't bright, sparkly magenta, that'd be pretty snazzy for the old gal. But it is definitely thinner than this. Although this is, I really probably should grab like calipers or something to measure how thick this is. Somewhere my husband has some, but it's also, this is a pretty supple leather, so probably that's definitely thin. Okay, so we've got lots of the shiny shinies. These are, I don't know, this is probably a little bit thicker, but this seems slightly stiffer. I mean, I don't think any of these are as thick as and stiff as this, so probably not really gonna work. Although I guess if we cinch it up enough, does it really have to be super stiff or just cinched in to hold it in place? I suppose we could test it with the sparklies because I certainly have plenty enough of it that I could sacrifice a small little piece. Yeah, this piece definitely seems kind of a thicker and stiffer bit. Also small. Okay, why don't we just sacrifice this little piece to test it out? Okay, let's go for it. And let's try making, what kind of, I don't know. We shall test this out and then trim as needed to see if this shall even work. Okay. One of these sides is much skinnier than the other. Oops. Well, this looks utterly ridiculous. I don't think having that extra long piece is really going to work. I don't see how that would be effective. It's definitely not cinched in tight enough. Not that you can see that from this angle, but yeah. So we need to trim. Okay, these parts. Ugh, it's too. Can't cinch it enough. Okay, trim, trim, trim. Oh man, kneeling on this hard tile is really not a great idea. Go in, go in, go in. Talking to objects and cheering them on always helps them do their job better, right? Okay, that's okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna cut off this extra flappy. I don't see how that's gonna really be useful. Oh, sorry, trimming without you. How rude of me. Or maybe not. Maybe this is super boring. Do. Trimmy, trim. Come on. Okay, let's see. No, what angle is going to be best for this? And then will you focus, camera? Okay, is that going to be cinched up enough? Okay, I think that's cinched up enough. I just don't know. Okay, and then I guess we gotta. Then I think we have to find a little tiny wooden shim. So I think now that this is fitting, what's meant is to have a kind of like wooden peg shim thing go in there to help, hold that apart so that it doesn't just loosen like that. Okay, so I added some oil. So I guess let's see if that will help it spin a little nicer. Let's see if oiling that leather will help it spin a little nicer. And where did I set the flyer down? Oh, right here. Can't see if alert for looking. Okay, so hold that tight. Okay, I think that spins nicer. Well, a little oil always helps the spin, right? Okay, so let's find something to shim with. I have no idea if it's better to have something flat or not. My first thought is to try a skewer, because I don't think a toothpick would be quite big enough, but this might be not wide enough. What happens if I try to put them side by side? Let's see. I cut a spacer out of a woolen ironing pad. So I think this is going to be about as thick as we need. First, for this to go onto the flyer shaft, I need to make a hole. So I'm going to go use the drill press to make a hole. So here we are in our very, very messy garage with a very dim lighting situation because the one fluorescent light that works in the garage needs for bulbs. It needs the bulbs replaced. So I've got the door open, but I can see. I just don't know how well you can see. I guess we'll find out in editing. Okay, so I've got the drill press set up. I'm going to try drilling out the center hole of this, and we'll see how that works. Although first, we should clean this off. It's very sawdusty. Don't necessarily need sawdust. Okay, hearing protection. I've got my hearing protection on, and I can't find my actual, like, over the glasses eye protection, so we'll just, I guess, make do with this. Thankfully, I don't think that wool should send splinters that could hurt my eyes. So, okay, and are you plugged in? Yes, plugged in. Okay, good. And not really a hole. Okay, let's see if we can. Okay. Sort of, kind of a hole. I can barely see light through it. Maybe we just need to get a bigger. Bigger. Is this bigger than that? Now the drill bit's all got fluff in it. Next time my husband comes to use it, he's going to probably wonder what in the world I was drilling. Okay, I'll give this a try, see if that gives us more of a hole. Maybe. Well, I guess we'll take this inside and see if we can get it to go on. See if that will go on the spindle shaft. Otherwise, we'll come back and drill a bigger hole. So here we have our spacer with maybe a hole. Let's, yeah, okay. Let's put the whorl back. Okay. Whorl. Okay, whorl on. See, is this gonna poke through? Okay, so that goes on. Okay, let's see if this is gonna work how I'm hoping it will. Oops. Okay. Go in, go in. It's working as a spacer, however, it's not really spinning very nicely. So maybe that's too thick. Well, I'm gonna try, see if we make, I guess because this is kind of against there, so it's probably squishing it a little bit. Okay, well. Gonna have to give this a think. Okay, another thing we need to take care of. Okay. We need to clean up all this old grease and gunk that has built up on the shaft. My spinning friend said that should probably help it to spin better. Not that, I mean, she seems to be spinning pretty well, but might as well get her all cleaned up. Okay, My friend did recommend using like a kitchen scouring pad to help clean it off, which I don't have any and I forgot to pick up. So I just sprayed some alcohol and used a paper towel, kind of rub it clean. And it's definitely no more surface grease. That, I guess, will have to be good enough for now. Certainly looks cleaner than it before. And now she's spinning very nicely, and the bobbin spins pretty freely too. Now we just gotta figure out. Yeah, I think this is just a little bit too thick. Okay, looks like this kind of built up of layers. So maybe if I just peel off a layer. Okay, let's tighten this up. Yes, going in the right direction. Okay. Now, I have no idea now if these are all crossed the correct directions. Okay, well, working as far as, woo! Seems to be working great, spinning great. The leader took up. So I guess the drive band's on the right direction. Is the drive band, I don't know. If the drive looks a little wobbly, so maybe something's not perfect. But it seems to be spinning good. And the spacer, okay, so that's giving it so it's not going to fall off. And it's still spinning, so I guess we'll count that as a success for now. The last thing that I need to fix on my antique spinning wheel is to reinforce the flyer arm where it's got a crack. I do not have the skills and knowledge to try and make a metal band, and it would make me nervous to drill into this very delicate old flyer. So we're going to try wrapping it with this hemp string to reinforce it. And hemp, just like linen, is quite strong. And I know I've seen examples of antique spinning wheels that have been repaired using that method, but I couldn't readily find examples again. But I know I've seen that that's the thing. There's the crack, so it's right around here. So I'm going to try and wrap around this both sides. And I guess we need to figure out. Obviously, I need to. I guess we'll have to test it out and see because we don't want it to be. Maybe this won't work because we obviously don't want it to interfere with the ability of the bobbin to spin freely. I'm going to give it a try, and I'm thinking that if it's too snug against there when I screw the whorl all the way on, perhaps it will work if I only screw it partly on. Because if it's only screwed part way, it's still not going to fall off. But it would give it more room. But then the whorl might loosen itself. Okay, well, I already have the string, and that'll be easy to at least try it. We'll see if it works or if it fails. I think the tricky thing is going to be the fact that I need to wrap it on both sides of the crack to really give it to be able to reinforce it in the way that it's going to need. So I guess if we just wrap it there. Oops. Interesting. Yeah, that's going to make it too tight. That's not going to spin freely. Although I guess if I put it on this other way, Okay, so if I do the whorl so that it's like this, that would give it enough room to spin freely, because when the whorl's tied up against, the whorl's on this position, that tightens it up, and then there's not enough space for it to spin. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap the flyer arm with this thread, and then we can see. I don't know if that's, I mean, obviously that's a lot of room for play, but I don't know if the drive band will just keep that aligned and let it work. I guess I could figure out a spacer for down here. Okay, well, let's get wrapping and see if this will work. Right there. Okay, so I'm attempting to, and having a rough time of trying to just wrap it really close to each other. So trying to butt it up right against there so that it will give us as much coverage on that side. Since the crack, it gets really close to this part of the flyer that probably has some name. I don't know. The sticky out part. Very, very technical name there. Okay, well, I think that is well past the crack. If I can keep them snugged up against each other. Snug, snug. Stay tight. No slipping. Okay, I guess since it is, especially since it's on a curved piece there, it might. Oh, I don't know if it's best to just keep wrapping up around here so then at least maybe it won't slip off. Maybe we'll just do that, because otherwise I'm worried that it's just going to work itself loose. Whereas if I can get it to pack in tight all against something else where it won't have room, just slip down, then maybe it will stay. Will be in the line of where it wears. So this might, don't know how long this will last if the wool thread is wearing on it, although I might just always put my thread on the other side so then I don't have to worry about it putting more stress on the crack and wearing that down. Is about packed in there. How much is this gonna go? So now the question is, can I now tie this off without losing the tension and having it all come apart? Don't get caught in yourself. Stay tight. Don't loosen up. Okay. This is the time when you need like a third hand to get the knot done. Okay, I guess we'll go test this out and see if this is going to work. Okay, okay. Okay, let's go put this on the spinning wheel and see if that is going to work or fail. Now that I've changed this, it might not even need this spacer now that this is spaced out more. Maybe that was how it was meant to go on there the whole time. First I need to get my drive band. So this alignment is not going to work because it is all the way over there. That does not line up with our wheel. So back to the drawing board. Okay, so I put it back the way it was. I tightened it. I didn't tighten it all the way down though. So I guess we're going to have to see if I can spin on this without the whorl loosening itself and falling off. Awkward to sit here and try and do this with my hand. So I should probably really just take it in the other room and actually sit so I can treadle with my foot instead of this awkwardness with my hand. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go to the other room. Well, I've spent longer than I wanted to trying to figure out a way to frame the shot that it wouldn't cut off my head. I think it does a little bit, but unfortunately, right now, this is the cleanest space I have to film that's not cluttered with my children's mess. I suppose the day after school they should really clean up their stuff. Let's test this out and see if our leader will take up. And if it does successfully, then we'll go find some fiber. Okay. Nope. Let's see. Now the question is it not taking up because it's building up twist, so it's not slipping around. That might mean that I don't have... Let's see what happens if we spin it in the other way. Oh, yeah. Okay, so right now it's set up to want to go counterclockwise. I always forget which way is Z and which way is S. Clockwise, counterclockwise totally makes sense to me. And I understand the logic between calling it S and Z twist, but my brain cannot remember which way. Whether S or Z corresponds to clockwise. Okay, so let's get you drive band switched so that we can so we can test out spinning clockwise. So that we don't end up with our singles going the wrong way. All right, fourth time. Let's see if I finally got the drive band twisted? No, overlapping. Set up correctly in order for this to spin counterclockwise and take up onto the bottom. That's what we're trying to find. Woo, woo, okay, yay. I'm going to go grab some fiber so that we can try out. Right, we've got a little bit of mostly Romney, a little bit of yellow Cheviot, and some alpaca. And let's see how the little gal works with all her beautiful modifications from her sparkly shiny flyer holder leather piece. I still need to look up the name of this. And the beautiful, lovely gray wool spacer and her blue hemp bandage. Oh well, I think totally the spirit of antique wheels is to make do with what you've got around. Okay, old girl, let's see what you got. This might help if I have the end of my fiber. Okay. Are you going to take up? You were taking up. Come on, old gal. Come on. Okay, we've got twist. Why are we not having take up now? Alright, I figured out why it doesn't want to take up going clockwise. And that's because when the bobbin is spinning in this direction, it's tightening up against the whorl and rubbing against the thread I added there. So it's slowing down the bobbin and it's acting like a brake. I think that means that the thread wrap's not going to work. I was really hoping I could fix it all myself because, I don't know, it would be nice to just fix it myself. But I think I'm going to have to get some help. I still have not decided what the best fix for the flyer is going to be. My husband's idea was to fill the crack with resin. Obviously, that is not historically accurate. I did not have resin when this was made. No idea if that's a good idea or not. I spun with this wheel at the Antique Spinning Wheel Showcase. Sadly, I am terrible about taking pictures or video in public. I need to work on that because it really would have been nice to have some video. I will work on that in the future to be less camera shy in front of other people. So the point being is that I did spin on her for the showcase. That was 2 days over a Saturday and Sunday. I just kept my yarn on the opposite arm of the flyer. And as you can see, not broken, no piece went flying, so that's good. I did end up switching back to the, here, let's swing the deadly, pokey, stabby distaff out of the way. I did have an incident with this stabby, sharp distaff that definitely increased my already healthy respect for the dangerous nature of this. It had tipped over. I mean, not my wheel, just this had like loosened and tipped, and the distaff fell and went thunk into my wooden floor. I wish I would have thought to like take a picture. Instead, I was just like yanking it out, but it embedded itself into the floor. So this is definitely a dangerous thing. I need to like needle felt or make some kind of covering for it. Maybe like a mushroom shape. That would be really fun. So could like look like a mushroom. I'll have to do that. Anyways, back to the recap. Let's see. Oh yes, so the things, maybe I should bring you in closer. We're gonna go back to the recap. I'll bring you in closer so that we can see some of the changes that I ended up making over the weekend at the showcase. So as you can see, I switched back to the original leather bushing that's holding this. I did add a little peg there to keep that tight, and I do need to still get some replacement leather to cut a new piece, since this one does have cracks in it and I don't want it to break. And also then I could, make it a little bit skinnier, that this would tighten up. But because of the spacer here, it's not going to wiggle out. The flyer's not going to wiggle out and fall. And I did, while I was at the showcase, I did cut this spacer down a lot smaller, because when it was the bigger size, it was causing some drag on the whorl there, and then I was having issues as the bottom got fuller, then it wasn't wanting to take up very well. And that is, yep, that is that. So that's how I've fixed up my spinning wheel so far. If you know of some better ways to do things, hopefully I haven't done anything terribly wrong. But if you know some tips or some other things to try, I do also need to remember to put a new dry vent on this. This one hasn't been on there that long, but I feel like it's already stretched out, so I have to really tighten the tension about all the way that it can go. When I put this on, I did have this, tightened up space between this, made as small as possible, but it's already seemed to stretch out. I don't know. It's a hemp cord that a different lady in the spinning guild, who she often teaches workshops and stuff, she had recommended this cord as the one that she buys now, because her favorite cord that she would get, like some kind of butcher twine from a Japanese grocery store, they were no longer carrying that same cord, so she switched to this hemp cord as like next best kind of thing. So I got that to try, and I think it's done a fine job. I just was surprised that it's already seemed to not be as tight as it was. I don't know. Anyways, thanks for watching, especially if you watched the whole thing. I know it was kind of long. And let's see, what are the other things? If you enjoyed this, please remember to like and subscribe and comment. Let me know things that you're curious about. Ask me questions, anything you'd like to see upcoming. Probably don't really have enough content yet for that to be yes, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye. I had it sitting, and it was, anyways, can I tell this story?